The council meeting of April 20th, 2021 will now please come to order. Due to this meeting being a virtual meeting, council is asking if anyone who would like to address council who is participating through the computer, please use the chat feature now to let Clerk Massarolo know you have a comment, and you will be called on during the comment portion of the meeting. If you are calling on a phone or do not have access to the chat feature, we will give directions during the public comment portion of our meeting. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mrs. Jones.
Here.
Mr. Broussard.
Present.
Mr. Glassburn.
Here.
Ms. Heeman.
Here.
Mr. Kelly.
Here.
Mr. Limpert.
Present.
Mr. Schuman.
Here.
Ms. Williamson.
Here.
If there are no additions or corrections, the council meeting minutes of April 6th, 2021 are approved as written. The following legislation will be considered for suspension of the rules this evening on first reading, Resolution 2021-30. Mayor Kennedy, do you have a report this evening?
Madam President, I do. Positive grant news, the city of North Olmsted is one of 12 communities in Cuyahoga County on the list to receive CDBG funds in 2021. The city is receiving the maximum award of $150,000 for Elm Road Rehabilitation Project. The city is also receiving just over $11,000 through County Planning Commission Healthy Urban Tree Canopy Program. Funds will be used to plant 60 new trees in North Olmsted Park. The Ohio Department of Transportation has identified the Clegg I-480 interchange as a high priority area in the state to improve traffic flow and safety. As vehicles stack up on the highway, on the off-ramp, there's safety hazards and potential for severe injury accidents. ODOT and the city staff has had several conversations regarding ODOT's Ramp Clear program, sharing both ODOT's and city objectives, not just about improving traffic flow off the highway, but also improving traffic flow onto the highway to reduce backups on Clegg Road. ODOT is funding 100% of the engineering and construction costs. The city will be required to execute an agreement with the state. Construction is scheduled to begin in spring of 2023. And Brook Park Road construction begins next week, so mobilization will be taking place this week to include lane closures between Lorraine and Great Northern Boulevard starting on Friday. Work will be performed by Shelley Company and managed by ODOT. And Madam President, that concludes my report.
Thank you. Law Director Garreau, do you have a report this evening?
Thank you, Madam President. I do have a brief report. Just a quick update on a matter that we had, the City of North Olmsted Law Department had commenced back in June of last year. It's State Ex-Rel Jeffrey Grusenmeyer and the City of North Olmsted versus Westbury Holdings. You may recall this was an action that we initiated regarding a number of what the city believed to be serious safety concerns with the Westbury apartment complex at Brook Park and Great Northern Boulevard. That included the delamination of the exterior of the building, and it also included the deterioration of the garage, the underground garage. There were a number of violation notices that were issued, and we were scheduled to refer to mediation back in February 23rd. We were scheduled for trial yesterday, and the mediation was successful. The City of North Olmsted was able to secure a favorable agreed judgment entry, which will establish timeframes and criteria for the successful completion of this work. We worked with the building commissioner to ensure that we got a judgment entry. If anybody wants to see it, I can send it to you. It's multiple pages long that we believe protects the residents and at the same time ensures the highest quality work that will last moving forward. If that's not done, then there are stipulated consequences for the failure to do so. So we're very happy with the way that turned out, and we look forward to seeing that project completed in a timely fashion and in a manner that is aesthetically appropriate and also safe to the residents who live in and around the building. The second matter is Kelly Patrick versus the City of North Olmsted in the Ohio Court of Claims. That is a public records action that was commenced against the city. We have prepared and served upon Ms. Patrick and the Ohio Court of Claims a responsive redaction to records as the court continues to evaluate our position. We've also asked that the matter be dismissed as we are in compliance with state law. So, Madam President, thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Finance Director Copper, do you have a report this evening?
Yes, I do, Madam President. I want to make sure that council is paying attention to substitute Ohio House Bill 157. It's expected sometime this week to have its last hearing, but I don't know if it happened today or it's later in the week. I'm not sure that they work on Tuesdays. They have committees on Tuesdays. However, the two primary impacts of this legislation are that it will sunset the temporary principal place of work language that's in House Bill 197 as of December 31st, 2021. And it will end all the pending litigation regarding work from home refunds, with employees able to receive those refunds of the tax withheld and remitted to their principal place of work municipalities while they were working from home due to COVID-19. The work from home revenue shift analysis that was provided last year by RITA to our municipality estimated that potential impact, and there are some cities that are dramatically impacted in the negative, and ours by that analysis shows that we're even or slightly ahead if people do this, but it will very negatively impact the larger areas such as Cleveland and Independence and areas like that that have a lot of office space that was empty this past year while people were working from home. So keep paying attention to that, and that will affect our income tax collections in the future. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Moving into council committee reports, I would like to begin by giving a brief report to council about a recent meeting I had with Chris Thomas, the Director of Government Affairs for Northeast Ohio and Pennsylvania for Charter Communications. Most of you would probably recognize the company name as Spectrum. Mr. Thomas requested to meet with me to let me know he is our city council's contact if council ever gets complaints with internet or cable. While he said we could use him for any issues with the company, I would certainly caution council not to use him for a single resident complaining about cost or slow internet, as we shouldn't be advocating on behalf of a single resident to a private company. However, he did encourage us to reach out to him if we have a street or an area that
Council President, you muted yourself.
oh, I'm so sorry. I apologize for that.
Contacting the street, Madam President.
What?
You left off at a street.
Thank you. Thank you. It's difficult to hold papers in front of your computer and then also not mute yourself at the same time. So as I was saying, if we do have a street or an area in the city that is continually having problems, it would certainly benefit you and that area to reach out to him. And if you would also just reach out to Clerk Massarolo, he'll work with you to get a hold of Mr. Thomas. The main purpose of the meeting, however, was to provide an update on several things. He wanted to let council know that Charter has a grant program that usually gives out between $5,000 and $20,000 per organization, and this is for nonprofits such as Boys Club, YMCA, etc. The grant is to help these organizations buy computers, pay to hire teachers to help children with technology, and pay for internet connections for these groups and other related items. So if any of you are aware of organizations that might be interested in this grant, you can find out more information from the Charter website. And the deadline for this particular grant is in October. Of note to our residents that use this internet service, the standard speed of service will be increasing this year from 100 megabits per second to 200 megabits per second. It has happened in some areas already and will continue to happen automatically throughout this year. If residents have their standard speed plan, they should see an increase in speed soon. Mr. Thomas also wanted to update us on programs that they've been offering as well. One program they had this past year was offering free internet services to anyone in kindergarten through college as a student or a teacher, even if not a customer, in order to allow them to stay connected to learn and teach remotely. Another program they have is called Stay Connected. It allowed low-income families and seniors to get access for a reduced rate. They've recently made some changes to the program as they said it was too much for some families. Charter has started partnering with schools and other organizations where the organization pays a bulk rate, and anyone who meets certain qualifications, such as the free lunch program, would receive internet for free. I did ask if they had partnered with municipalities on a similar type of program for seniors or others in the city, and he said so far they have not, but it would be a conversation the company would likely be willing to have if a municipality was interested. Information that is relevant for our council in our administration is Charter has a cell phone program called Spectrum Mobile. If you're like me, you've probably seen those ads around when you're watching TV or what have you. Basically, he said that the way it works is when you're at home and connected to Wi-Fi, the phone uses your home Wi-Fi for calls, and when you leave the home, you're on Verizon's network. However, starting next year, this program is going to rely on small cell towers when there is no Wi-Fi before jumping to Verizon's network. Mr. Thomas said we can expect to see Charter pulling permits and installing these small cell towers in North Olmsted and other nearby communities soon. Council may remember a couple years ago, our Director of Planning and Development, Director Lieber, worked with us on legislation to try and put some guidelines in place for these types of towers. Due to federal and state law, Council was limited in the types of regulation it could require for these types of towers. We will probably start to hear about these small cell towers more from our residents in the coming months. And perhaps Director Lieber would be willing to provide Council with some written information on these towers so that we can provide residents with good information when we do ultimately receive these phone calls. And the final thing that Mr. Thomas talked with me about is the Smart City program. This program does several things, but he gave the example of placing sensors throughout the wastewater treatment system that would send data back to the plant to help with plant operations, which I thought was pretty interesting. So thank you. That concludes that report. And moving on to Councilman Broussard, Chairman of the Public Safety, Health, and Welfare Committee. Do you have a report this evening?
I do, Madam President. Thank you. The Public Safety, Health, and Welfare Committee met on April 13th, 2021, beginning at 7:01 p.m. Present were committee members Broussard, Limpert, and Williamson, as well as Council President Jones, Council members Kelly, Heeman, and Glassburn, Directors Gallo, Lieber, Kopfer, Garreau, Mayor Kennedy, Chiefs Wagner, and Shep, and guests. We met to discuss 3 pieces of legislation, the first of which is Resolution 2021-27, resolution authorizing the mayor to accept a donation of a LifePak 15 monitor defibrillator from University Hospital System, St. John West Shore Hospital, for use by the City of North Olmsted Division of Fire. This one was handled by Chief Shep, and this was a ask and you shall receive scenario where we reached out to St. John West Shore and asked for this donation in advance with the anticipation that this would go into our future new squad number 51. The item is valued at $35,000. Motion was made to approve to all of council, seconded by Councilwoman Williamson, and that one passed by a vote of 3-0. Next, we discussed Ordinance 2021-26, an ordinance amending Section 3 of Ordinance number 2002-103, as later amended by Ordinance numbers 2002 2008-155, 2013-98, and 2017-59, which collectively established fees and charges for emergency medical services rendered by the City of North Olmsted Fire Department in order to increase fees and charges currently charged. This was also handled by Fire Chief Shep. He indicated that these are for insurance purposes only for non-residents. He indicated that we haven't adjusted our current fee schedule since 2017, and our billing agent recommended that we increase our fees because current BWC claims are paying $900. After some additional Q&A, motion was made to approve to all council, seconded by Councilwoman Williamson. That one passed by a vote of 3-0 as well. And then last, we discussed Resolution 2021-28, a resolution authorizing the mayor to advertise for bids for the award of a contract to provide for plumbing and related improvements at the North Olmsted Police Station, as detailed in specifications on file with the Service Department, and further authorizing the mayor, following approval of the Board of Control, to contract for the same with the lowest and best bidder. This one was handled by Police Chief Wagner. He indicates that the police station was built in 1973, and the current plumbing standards are woefully inadequate. Currently, we have 6 male jail cells and 3 female jail cells, which will be affected during the upgrades to this plumbing project. The jail will be unavailable for approximately 2 to 3 weeks during the project duration, at which time our prisoners will be handled by the City of Westlake. Motion was made to approve to all council, seconded by Councilwoman Williamson, passed by a vote of 3-0. Our meeting concluded at 7:27 p.m., and that will conclude my report.
Madam President,
Councilman Glassburn.
Madam President, I would move to amend 2021-26 in the second paragraph of section 1 to read as follows: all residents and non-residents receiving emergency medical service and or ambulance transportation starting on January 1st, 2022 shall pay a utilization charge, therefore on a per person per call basis determined as follows. And ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to amend ordinance 2021-26 made by Councilman Glassburn, seconded by Councilwoman Williamson. Roll call, please.
Mr. Glassburn?
Yes, with comment. We are still in the middle of this pandemic. While we need to adjust our rates with the times, we do need to keep in mind that we are still in a crisis situation. Our insurance companies are paid their rates by our residents, so this eventually does impact everyone down the line. Thank you.
Ms. Williamson?
Yes.
Ms. Seaman?
Yes, with a comment. While I am in agreement with Councilman Glassburn's comments, I'd like to also add that, while it was brought up that, our residents will be paying the increase, but that other populations will be, who are visiting our guests of our city, should something unforeseen happen to them and they require an ambulance. Again, that burden would be borne by, insurance companies and then a non-resident. And again, it still is a pandemic, and I think January 1st is an appropriate time for the increase. Thank you. Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Broussard?
Yes, with comment. I didn't want my comments during caucus discussion regarding this subject to be misconstrued. I do support the amendment. It is a good amendment. I just wanted to make sure that we all had the facts from last week's meeting. My vote is yes. Thank you.
Mr. Limpert?
No.
Mr. Schuman,
No, with comment. I'm here representing people of North Homestead and Ward 3 in particular. I don't know why we would. We should be charging whatever we can, get whatever we can out of the insurance companies from people that don't live in town. Thank you.
That motion passes with a vote of 5-2. Councilwoman Williamson, Chairwoman of the Building, Zoning, and Development Committee, do you have a report this evening?
I do not, Madam President. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Schuman, Chairman of the Finance Committee, do you have a report this evening?
No report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Limpert, Chairman of the Streets and Transportation Committee, do you have a report this evening?
I do have a report this evening, Madam President. Thank you. The Streets and Transportation Committee met on April 13th at 8:39 p.m. Present were committee members Limpert, Glassburn, Kelly, council members Broussard, Heeman, and Williamson, the mayor, law director, finance director, planning director, HR director. Discussed was resolution 2020-111, which is Clegg Road ODOT safety funding proposal. This meeting was a follow-up to a meeting on March 30th where Mott McDonald Consulting Group who performed the traffic study on Clegg Road returned to provide a presentation on the changes of ODOT's funding and project schedule from 2021 compared to the original proposal to apply in 2020, with the goal of moving the amendment to a vote so we could keep the safety grant on the table or move on to other options for improving Clegg Road. Mr. Glassburn noted that he felt more options should have been explored before applying for the safety grant, and that we should go beyond the current proposal, which is improving the safety at Clegg Park through signalization and widening the road near Maple, and felt that the county and ODOT would not appreciate us voting on the application for grant in case it was not approved to move forward. Mr. Kelly believes that most residents want a third lane on Clegg Road. Mr. Limpert noted that the administration saw the opportunity to make improvements through the safety grant, which would further reduce the cost of the road improvements to Clegg to the widening at Maple, and traffic study did not support a third lane for safety and volume reasons to be covered within the scope of safety, and expressed that the residents are faced with cost implications of a third lane versus other uses related to the streets that money could be used for. Mr. Limpert noted that either way the council votes yes, it is important to move. Either way the council votes, it is important to move this forward through the committee process in order to address other possible plans. In addition, that would allow the administration to continue to engage ODOT and the county on plans to improve Clegg Road. The mayor noted the administration wanted to move forward with the safety improvements proposed by the traffic study, and with the repave that would provide an improvement to Clegg. They had hired the professionals for the traffic study, and the outcomes and recommendation was a safety improvement, along with redoing the portion of Clegg Road that would provide an improvement to the current road. Ms. Heeman did not believe there was support for the application and wanted to see a different proposal. She noted that the traffic studies and surveys should have been done with the consideration of some council members' desired outcome, and also felt that the proposal for safety grant application repaving of Clegg Road is just not what people want. The mayor noted that they were looking for a vote so they could have a direction to follow up on the completion of the study. Councilwoman Limpert made a motion to approve or not approve the resolution 2020-111, which was not seconded and thereby held in committee. The meeting concluded at 8:49 p.m. Madam President, given that this has been held in committee on several occasions, there are time implications to determine whether to apply for the grant or not. I'll be recommending that this move out of committee and to council as a whole at our next council meeting. Madam President, this concludes my report. Madam President, can I have a moment of personal privilege?
Yes.
I just wanted to offer my condolences to the Orlowski and Seaman family, members of our former councilman and city clerk who I've known for a very long time, and my family's thoughts and sympathies are with those families. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Heeman, Chairwoman of the Environmental Control Committee, do you have a report this evening?
Madam President, no report with regard to environmental control. I would like to report, please, if I may, on 2021-30 that was discussed in caucus this evening.
Yes.
That is a resolution extending for a second time temporary outdoor patio dining areas and declaring an emergency. And this will be with suspension. Councilwoman Williamson very thoughtfully mentioned that we should be extending this rather than to the end of September through the deadline of October 31st. And so I will not be asking for an amendment because it hasn't been introduced yet, but we will be changing that legislation to say that it will be expiring October 31st of 2021. And I'd like to thank her for, that kind suggestion on behalf of our businesses and residents. And that concludes my report. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Councilman Glassburn, Chairman of the Intergovernmental Relations Committee, do you have a report this evening?
Yes, I do, Madam Chair. Thank you. The Intergovernmental Relations Committee met on April 13th at 7:27. Committee members Glassburn and Heeman were present, as well as President Jones and members Kelly, Williamson, Broussard, and Limpert, the mayor, law director, finance director, chief of police, and chief of fire, and guests. The first matter that was up for discussion was 2021-25 concerning North Olmsted providing jail services to Fairview Park. Councilman Glassburn expressed concerns about the rate, which were echoed by Councilwoman Heeman and Councilman Kelly. Councilman Kelly further asked as to what will happen to the Fairview Park prisoners while North Olmsted has its prisoners in the custody of Westlake. Councilman Kelly further went to specifically state that he felt that $65 was not an appropriate rate for the jail portion. Councilman Limpert expressed his support for the deal of both the jail and dispatch services, as well as Councilwoman Heeman said she was supportive of the dispatch services portion of the deal, but was interested in potentially looking at the rates. There was some discussion as to why the legislation was in two separate pieces. Chief Wagner and Law Director Groh each addressed that Fairview Park had separated the legislation into two separate pieces, and that Chief Wagner felt that to not move forward in this structure would result in Fairview Park not proceeding with the deal. Councilman Glassburn moved forward the motion to recommend to council 2021-25. It was seconded by Councilwoman Heeman, and it was passed a vote of 2-0. Next on the agenda was the 2021-21 concerning electronic meetings. Councilwoman Heeman expressed her desire for there to be a residency requirement in the legislation. Councilman Broussard indicated he was against such a requirement. Chair Glassburn reminded all that part of the legislation would be best addressed, if at all, during council rules, so that it would not impact other organizations that would have to generally follow under these provisions. There was some discussion further after that on whether the meeting should be, in terms of suggestions made by Director Lieber, whether the meeting should have a 30-minute or 15-minute limit for folks waiting. That was agreed that 15 it should be reduced to. There was changes as to whether breaks specifically should not have restroom be indicated, that they're just breaks, so that it would be a short break as is written without that. Council President Jones indicated that we should look at this legislation as broadly as possible for the impact on all organizations. There was some discussion as to whether there should be, and it was decided to keep the time of 5 minutes for how long to wait for an individual to return to the meeting. Law Director Garreau thankfully indicated to all that nonverbal affirmations of votes could be done in limited circumstances if there are audio failures. And there was a couple of other minor items for not punctuation, for typographical errors that were addressed. The item was held in committee by a vote of 2-0, and the meeting concluded at 8:39 p.m. Thank you, Council President. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Councilman Kelly, Chairman of the Recreation, Public Parks and Buildings Committee, do you have a report this evening?
No report tonight, Madam President. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any letters or communications to come before council at this time?
No, Madam President.
Thank you for joining our meeting tonight. At this time, council will hear comments from the public. Please remember to state your name and address for our clerk. If you live in a city other than North Homestead, please state the name of that city. We will start with those who have notified us via chat or notified our clerk. Anyone who has not notified us via the chat feature who would like to comment, please unmute your phone and start your comment when prompted. Clerk Massarolo, has anyone notified you that they would like to comment this evening?
Yes, Madam President. Mr. Groden has asked to address council.
Thank you. School Board President Groden.
Yes, good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Terry Groden, 25211 Chase Drive. I apologize. My camera is apparently not configured properly, so I'm not able to bring my picture up. But I essentially look the same as the last time you saw me, except for maybe a few more gray hairs. But I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you this evening and in my capacity as school board president. I believe you have received a couple of documents that Mr. Massarolo forwarded to you. And I want to talk to you this evening about something called the Fair School Funding Plan. And I think I hope to stay within my time limit, my time allotment. But if I go a little bit over, I would respectfully request an extension. I want to focus on one of the documents that you received first, and it is something called the Fair School Funding Facts. And I just want to highlight a couple of things about this document and the legislation that is now being discussed in the General Assembly in Columbus. 3 years ago, actually, some state education leaders and a couple of state representatives launched an effort to make school funding in Ohio constitutional because it has been ruled unconstitutional on a number of occasions. What they came up with was the Fair School Funding Plan. It was actually passed by a great majority in the Ohio House last year, but did not get past the Senate Finance Committee. It is back this year. It was introduced originally as House Bill 1, but has since been woven into the biennium budget bill, which is House Bill 110. The Fair School Funding Plan is something that the North Olmsted City School District supports, and for a few reasons why, at least. One of the reasons is that under the base cost of this plan, base cost per pupil, the amount of money that districts would receive from the state of Ohio takes into account not only the property values of the residents of the community, but also the income levels in each community. And this is a big improvement because it takes into a couple of factors related to a community's ability to pay, so that whatever state funding we would get would not be overly reliant on local and property taxes. And I believe that's important. This plan also allows for additional targeted assistance. And these would be for students who are in different categories like economically disadvantaged, special needs students, students with disabilities, and English language learners. And the North Olmsted City School District has a fair number of these types of students. So that kind of funding would also be beneficial to the North Olmsted City Schools. It's also important to recognize that under this plan, funding for alternative education choices, vouchers and charter schools, would be funded separately by the state of Ohio. We're currently losing, the North Olmsted City Schools lose about $800,000 a year for students who leave our school district to attend different schools or different districts. So this would help ensure that the money we receive is money for North Olmsted City School students. The last thing that I would mention here is, well, two more things actually. One, this plan.
Mr. Groden?
Yes.
Could you hold that thought for one moment?
Yeah.
Is there a motion on the floor to extend Mr. Groden's time by 7 minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Motion to extend Mr. Groden's time by 7 minutes made by Councilman Glassburn, seconded by Councilwoman Williamson. Roll call, please.
Mr. Glassburn?
Yes.
Ms. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Broussard?
Yes.
Mr. Limpert?
Yes.
Mr. Schuman?
Yes.
Ms. Heeman?
Yes.
That motion passes with a vote of 7-0. Please continue, Mr. Groden. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, council members. The plan also makes funding more predictable for local communities, and it would help reduce not only the frequency by which schools are pushed to the ballot box for operating levies, but it may also reduce the amount being requested. As I'm sure you know, we are going to be on the ballot in May for an operating levy. Under the first initial simulation for the Fair School Funding Plan, the amount North Olmsted would receive in state funding would go from $7.6 million in fiscal year 2021 to $9.1 million. Now, these simulations are changing. As a matter of fact, it's my understanding that they were revised today, and I have not had a chance to go through that data yet. But according to this initial simulation, North Olmsted would have received an additional approximately $1.4 million. So as you can see, it wouldn't remove the fact that we would have to go on the ballot occasionally for operating funds, but it would probably mean we wouldn't have to seek as much. And that is another reason that we are in favor of the Fair School Funding Plan. And this plan can be done. It has been worked on for 3 years, and so we are confident that it can be done without a tax increase. We do believe there are existing and available funds in Columbus to do this. Last night, we organized a meeting between the superintendents, treasurers, and school board members of the 24th Senate District with Senator Dolan. We had a conversation with the senator about this plan last night. I would say that he is generally supportive of the plan, but there are still some things he's trying to work through. We do intend to have some more conversations with Senator Dolan. In fact, probably by May 12th, we're going to have another meeting with the senator. And the reason I'm speaking to you this evening is because I would encourage or maybe urge any of you individually or maybe as a body to join in this conversation with Senator Dolan. Look over the information. I will be happy to meet or get on the phone with any one of you at any time to discuss this plan. But I think it would go a long way if other leaders in this community could get behind this plan and support it with Senator Dolan. I don't think he's surprised when public education leaders are in support of this plan. But if other people such as you can communicate to Senator Dolan that you are also in favor of this plan because you also believe that this is going to help the constituents that you serve, I think that could go a long way into getting this measure, this legislation across the goal line this year. And so I thank you again for the extra time, and I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have right now.
Thank you, Mr. Groden. We appreciate you sharing these thoughts with council, and we will certainly reach out to you if we do have any further questions.
Thank you, Madam President. If I could, just one more comment, one more thought. The other document that I sent was a resolution that City Council passed, I believe it was in 2015, that supported sensible funding for public education in Ohio. So that might be another avenue to explore, but that was the reason that I sent that other document to you today. And thank you again for your time. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. At this time, if there's anyone on the computer or the phone who would like to comment to council this evening, please address council now. Seeing no other comments from our audience, we will now move into legislation.
Legislation on third reading. Ordinance 2020-145, introduced by Mayor Kennedy. An ordinance providing for the amendment of Chapter 1135, 1 and 2 family resident districts of the codified ordinances of the City of North Olmsted as amended.
Madam President,
Councilwoman Williamson.
thank you. I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance 2020-145 and ask for a second.
I'll second that.
Motion to adopt ordinance 2020-145 made by Councilwoman Williamson, seconded by Councilman Schuman. Roll call, please.
Ms. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Schuman?
Yes.
Mr. Broussard?
Yes.
Mr. Limpert?
And my apologies to Ms. Williamson, I was late on the mute button. Yes.
Ms. Heeman?
Yes.
Mr. Glassburn?
Yes, with comment. Thank you, Chair Williamson, for your patience and diligence on this.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Ordinance 2020-145 is adopted with a vote of 7-0.
Resolution 2021-24, introduced by Mayor Kennedy. A resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with the City of Fairview Park, Ohio, for the purpose of providing the City of Fairview Park with police dispatch services as amended.
Madam President,
Councilman Glassman.
thank you. I move to adopt 2021-24 and ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to adopt resolution 2021-24 made by Councilman Glassburn, seconded by Councilman Schuman. Roll call, please.
Mr. Glassburn,
Yes.
Mr. Schuman,
Yes.
Ms. Seaman,
Yes.
Mr. Limpert,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
Mr. Bassard,
Yes.
Ms. Williamson.
Yes.
Resolution 2021-24 is adopted with a vote of 7-0.
Legislation on second reading. Resolution 2021-25, introduced by Mayor Kennedy. A resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with the City of Fairview Park, Ohio, for the purpose of providing the City of Fairview Park jail services for the housing of Fairview Park prisoners in the North Olmsted City Jail. Ordinance 2021-26, introduced by Mayor Kennedy. An ordinance amending Section 3 of Ordinance Number 2002-103, as later amended by Ordinance Numbers 2002-154, 2008-155, 2013-98, and 2017-59, which collectively established fees and charges for emergency medical services rendered by the City of North Olmsted Fire Department in order to increase fees and charges currently charged as amended. Resolution 2021-27, introduced by Mayor Kennedy. A resolution authorizing the mayor to accept a donation of a LifePak 15 monitor defibrillator from University Hospital Systems, St. John West Shore Hospital, for use by the City of North Olmsted Division of Fire. Resolution 2021-28, introduced by Mayor Kennedy. A resolution authorizing the mayor to advertise for bids for the award of a contract to provide for plumbing and related improvements at the North Olmsted Police Station, as detailed in the specifications on file with the Service Department, and further authorizing the mayor, following approval of the Board of Control, to contract for the same with the lowest and best bidder. Legislation on first reading. Resolution 2021-30. A resolution extending for a second time temporary outdoor patio dining areas and declaring an emergency.
Madam President,
Councilwoman Heeman.
I'd like to introduce and place on first reading and request suspension of the rules requiring 3 readings. This was discussed in caucus this evening. It has previously been extended, and I believe that for the benefit of the health, safety, and welfare of our residents and businesses, that suspension is necessary. And ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to suspend the rule requiring 3 readings and formal committee review made by Councilwoman Heeman, seconded by Councilman Glassburn. Roll call, please.
Ms. Seaman,
Yes.
Mr. Glassburn,
Yes.
Mr. Bassard,
Yes.
Ms. Williamson,
Yes.
Mr. Schuman,
Yes.
Mr. Limpert,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly.
Yes.
That motion passes with a vote of 7-0. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to address council regarding resolution 2021-30, please do so now.
Madam President, seeing
Councilwoman.
and hearing none. Thank you. Seeing and hearing none, I'd like to make a motion to adopt 2021-30 and ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to adopt resolution 2021-30 made by Councilwoman Heeman, seconded by Councilman Glassburn. Roll call, please.
Ms. Seaman,
Yes.
Mr. Glassburn,
Yes.
Mr. Limpert,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
Mr. Schuman,
Yes.
Mr. Bassard,
Yes.
Ms. Williamson.
Yes.
Resolution 2021-30 is adopted with a vote of 7-0.
Resolution 2021-31, a resolution authorizing the mayor to advertise for bids for the award of a contract to lease replacement fitness cardio equipment at the North Olmsted Recreation Center as detailed in specifications on file in the Division of Recreation, and authorizing the mayor, following approval of the Board of Control, to contract for the same with the lowest and best bidder.
Madam President,
Mayor,
I'd like to introduce and place on first reading.
thank you. Looking into scheduling council committee meetings for Tuesday, May 4th. Councilman Kelly.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to schedule a Recreation, Public Parks and Building Committee to discuss 2021-31 and ask that the Recreation Commissioner be there, and that would be at 7:15 p.m. on May 4th.
Thank you. With the agenda being completed and there being no further business to come before council, this meeting of April 20th, 2021 is adjourned at 8:52 p.m.